soul. Got clout, got hoes. Trayvon, I'm the GOAT. Daquan, you a hoe. Your baby mama a swallower. You had a pimp for your follower. We do not pimp for no followers. Big pimpin' with my collar up. Who got the coat? I got the coat. Who got the coat? I got the coat. She want the coat. I got the coat. Go to my neck. Go to my...
How's it going, Jack Tackers, and welcome back to another video for you guys. Today I'm going to be ranking all the MCU movies from the worst to the best. So, coming in at number 19 is Thor: The Dark World. Now, this is at the very bottom of the list, mainly because it's just a weak movie. There's very few positives in this movie, and the villains, which you can argue most of the villains in the MCU are actually, not that great, but recently they've been quite good. The villain with the dark elves, it doesn't work, and the movie itself's just very boring, and it feels just very off with its pacing, and it's just not that intriguing compared to the other Marvel movies. Also, I forgot to mention this, if you hear noise in the background, my washing machine's like right next to where I'm filming, so sorry if you hear that going off in the background. So, next up, at number 18, we have The Incredible Hulk. Now, The Incredible Hulk's very much the black sheep, if you want to call it that, of the MCU. It feels very out of place, and many people actually forget it's even in the MCU, and it is. Though we have Edward Norton as the Hulk instead of Mark Ruffalo, which Ed Norton, I think he does a good job as Bruce Banner and the Hulk, but I do prefer Mark Ruffalo, I'd have to say, though I just want to be clear, I don't hate Ed Norton. And once again, the Abomination, that whole storyline, it doesn't really, work. And trying to find another word to say that, but it just doesn't work for me. And also, it has a bit of a strange pacing, in my opinion. And there's very few tie-ins with the MCU in this. I mean, yes, General Ross comes into play with Civil War, and yeah, so that is a connection, but there's not many connections, which is why it's kind of like that black sheep of the MCU. At number 17, we have Iron Man 2. Now, Iron Man 2, I think I originally liked it because I saw it when I was very young. Though, looking back on the movie, it's such a mess, and there's just a bunch of convoluted storylines in it. The villain, from the villains to just cramming in a bit too much inside the movie. You have Black Widow in this as well, and War Machine, and there's a bunch of just extra plots that are just pushed into this movie, and yeah, it doesn't really feel right. Like, it feels off, and it's very convoluted with a bunch of storylines that just shouldn't be into one movie. And for the action sequences, they're alright, for when they're on the racetrack in Whiplash, kind of like, that fight, that scene, when they're on the racetrack. I mean, that's a cool scene. It's just, it feels just very, just twisted, and there's just too much crammed inside this movie, which is the main fault of the movie, and the main negative I have with this film. Next, at number 16, we have Iron Man 3. Now, Iron Man 3 is actually so much better than Iron Man 2, and I remember actually rewatching this a couple times when I was younger, because I actually enjoyed this movie quite a bit. Though, looking back on it now, as I'm older, it doesn't hold up, and the villain, again, isn't that exciting. I do kind of like what they were doing with Iron Man, and how, they kind of had him lose his suit for a part of the movie, and he met that kid, and that was, I think I liked that part of the movie the most, actually. And we got to see a lot of the Iron Legion, but he just blows all of them up at the end of the movie, and it doesn't make any sense, and it's a bit confusing, why he would just waste, billions of dollars on just exploding them. And yeah, but for the action, it's actually pretty damn good. And we get Iron Patriot, which is also kind of cool. And there definitely are a few positives with this movie. It's just, it doesn't hold up to my standards today. Also, I totally spaced on this, but the Mandarin twist, get out of here. So now coming in at number 15 is Thor, the original one. And this movie actually is pretty decent, though it's not nearly as good as the films above this. And at this point in the list, we're starting to gradually get better movies, if you want to call them that. But Thor, it does have issues, once again, with the pacing, and it feels like it's strange because it feels like you're almost watching a Lord of the Rings movie at first, if you guys have ever seen those. And then he goes to Earth, and then it kind of becomes like a rom-com almost, and I'm just like, I don't know how I feel about this, and it's very weird paced, and yeah, I don't know. Though, I will say, there is some entertaining stuff in this film, with the Frost Giants, is that what they're called? Ice Giants, Frost Giants, and Loki and all that. So I do like some of the stuff in this movie, but it's kind of forgettable, yet, it's oddly paced, which is the main problem with the first two Thor movies.